Hi, everyone. My name is Becky Robinson, and I am so thrilled to be here today with Paul Cummings, the author of It All Matters, and his very special guest, Andy Heck. We are honored and glad and pleased that you've chosen to invest your time learning with us this afternoon, and I guarantee that you're going to hear some things that are going to help you be more focused on setting goals that lead to results in your life and business. So, Paul and Andy, welcome. How are you?
Doing great.
So for those of you who've been on our events before, you know that I'm calling in today from my home office in Lambertville, Michigan, actually my office, not my home office. Paul, I know you're not at home today. Where in the world are you today?
Well, I am in Baltimore, Maryland, but believe it or not, I am in the basement of what used to be an old bank building, Becky, and I'm in the vault. It literally, they had to come down and spin the vault door, and they put a conference table in here. So I'm in a vault in Baltimore.
Oh, very cool.
Wow. And Andy, I think you look like you're in your office, but tell us, where are you?
I'm in my office in Amsterdam, New York, which is upstate New York.
Awesome. Well, we're so thrilled to have you, and I will introduce you to in a bigger way in a couple of moments. But before I do that, I want to invite everyone on the call to go ahead and find your question panel. Later in today's event, we're going to open up for some questions and answers, and you can ask Paul or Andy nearly anything you'd like to ask them. And so we want to make sure you can find the question panel. So go ahead and find it and tell me where you're calling in from. We would love to see and hear where our audience is from. It looks like we have a friend from Northern California. We have someone from Milwaukee, Colorado. I see some Chattanooga, New Jersey, North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Tennessee, Kansas, Philadelphia, Illinois, Orlando, more Colorado. You all are going faster than I can even read. Looks like we have some international callers, someone from Ontario. Almost every single state coming into that question panel. Someone from Qatar. So I was mentioning before the meeting to Paul that we often have an international audience. So thank you to all of you who are joining. A few housekeeping notes for you. One is that we will be recording today's session. You might already be able to tell that from your GoToWebinar panel. We will be adding this recording to our YouTube channel and getting the link out to you later today. So in the event that you have a friend, a family member, or a colleague who would benefit from this material, we would welcome that you would share that with them. Also, we will be sending a PDF of today's slides after the event for your continued learning. So, wow, we have someone from Turkey on the call. Merhaba to our friend in Turkey. I went there once. I can't probably speak any other language, but I can say hello to our guest from Turkey.
That's fantastic.
So we also want to invite you, if you're a social media person, to live tweet today's event. And if you do so, you'll notice on the slides that we're going to turn to next that we have the hashtag #ItAllMatters, and we also have Paul's Twitter handle. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of that, and we'll be sending all of that out to you later today. So you may or may not know that this week marks the release of Paul's latest book, It All Matters: 125 Strategies to Achieve Maximum Confidence, Clarity, Certainty, and Creativity. And you can probably tell this isn't a book, it's a piece of paper. And the reason is because Paul's book is in such high demand that I don't even have one in my office. So that's all kinds of fun. So thanks again to those of you who are joining us. I want to take a quick moment to introduce our guests today. And Paul, I'm going to actually let you introduce Andy because I know you invited Andy for a very special reason. So maybe you can share with us why you invited him and who he is and what he's going to add to today's event.
Thanks, Becky. Well, one, Andy's a dear friend. I met Andy in a business setting. He runs a recreational vehicle business in upstate New York, and I think Andy was referred to me by another good friend of mine, Greg Lala, and told about what we did from a leadership development standpoint. But Becky, you know, all students aren't equal, and all materials not the same. And what I mean by that is, I'll teach a class to 500 people, and everybody will hear the same material. It'll be delivered in the same way. But it's never been the material. It's the way a student receives that and then how they action it. And the reason Andy is here is Andy took my goal setting formula and he put it on steroids, and then he amplified it, and then he did it again and again and again. And he's just produced remarkable results for my friend, both from a business standpoint and a personal standpoint. But what I love most about Andy is he didn't keep it to himself. He shared it with his teams, he shared it with his friends, he shared it with his family. And so, I believe evidence is important, and I believe success leaves an evidence trail. And Andy Heck has built quite the evidence trail of what goal setting can do for somebody's life. So that's why I invited him, because I can just say I'm very humbled by the fact that he has actioned so much of what we learned together in a classroom.
Yep. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So let me just take a quick moment to introduce you. So in addition to being the author of this brand new book, It All Matters, you've been educating business professionals for over 35 years, and you've developed some really revolutionary content around sales, customer service, and leadership development. I know that you've been touching many lives through your speaking and through your training, and so we're so thrilled to have you here with us today. Why don't we go ahead and dig in, and Paul, maybe you can give our attendees an overview of what we hope to achieve by the end of this hour.
Yeah, well, I'll try to make it pretty simple. When I wrote the book, It All Matters, those 3 words were just really important to me because I learned those at a very young age from my grandfather. And I think sometimes when people see it and all, they think that I mean all is encompassing the world. And that's not really what the book's about. The book's about you finding your all. And once you know what that is, what you want to do with your journey, what you want to do with your 86,400 seconds every day, is then how do you determine the it's, the behaviors, the actions that will allow you to live to your best self. And I think that everybody has an unlimited capacity, Becky, to do something great. But I think people are a little at times tired of theory, and they might actually like application, something. So this book is penned with personal experience. Every story in this book is real. Every life lesson has been learned and lived and shared and lived by others. Every toolkit in this book has already been utilized by businesses today on over 6 continents. So I put together a piece of work that I think people will, I think it will engage them. I think they'll feel that it was a one-on-one conversation. That's how I wrote it. I think they'll be inspired, even though it wasn't an inspirational book. I think they'll be motivated, even though I wasn't trying to write a motivational book. I think they'll laugh. I think they might even get a tear or two at some point because the stories are so real. And we didn't leave the struggle out of the book. It's in there too, because anybody that's ever built a business, been in business, or tried to achieve any goal or dream that's important, life happens to all of us, and we get tested. And our moments of adversity are where we're being actually polished, not demolished. And it's what we do with that. So I just wanted to write a difference-making book. I wanted to write a book that somebody would read and give to a friend. I didn't want to write a book somebody would read, sit on the shelf, and never see again. And it's already kind of proven that out this week. It's been pretty interesting how many people have come to the bookstore, bought the book, an hour later showed back up to buy 5 more after reading the first 2 chapters. So
that's really powerful.
Today we're going to learn how to determine what people really want and what goals are important to them.
Awesome. Well, why don't we dig into that? So Paul, can you tell me why you believe that goals are so important for people?
Yeah, well, I think Andy can speak to this too. As a business owner, simply put, goal-directed people are a lot more fun to lead. People that have goals show up with a different intention, a different level of energy. They use maximum effort. They're better organized, and they're more excited. Goals give your life something to aim for. I always remember Zig Ziglar said, if you're a wandering generality, you'll never find out when you're lost. But if you're a meaningful specific, you'll always know when you arrive. And it really inspired me at a young age. So goals, simply put, are our life compass. They help us maximize every step of our journey. So people with goals have a more impactful journey in business, their personal space. And once you get it, once you understand the secret sauce, once you know that there's a real way to do this, it's life-changing.
Thanks. Did you want to add anything, Andy? Why have goals been so important to you?
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%. I've always been kind of goal-oriented all my life, but I think when I went to Paul's leadership retreat many years ago with some of my team, we were looking to learn some leadership exercises, and right away I realized it was going to be about goal setting. And really, we didn't learn a lot. It wasn't a lot of tangible stuff, true business stuff, but the whole thing was about goals and why it matters in every part of your life. And so that's something that if you can everybody wakes up with a purpose, and if you have goals, your purpose of your career, there's reasons why you're doing what you want to do, and I think we've benefited from over the years of, if we can teach people how to have personal goals, there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing at work every day and how they're helping our customers or how they're helping each other, and so we've seen tremendous benefit over the years. So it's something that I continue to try to help our team with on a daily basis.
Sure. So we talked before, Paul and Andy, about what happens at those leadership seminars that you do. And I know that one of the things that you always do first is you ask this really incredible question, what do you really want? Can you tell me what you've learned from asking that question?
Yeah, well, I think over the last 35 years, I've been in a room with a lot of successful people, a lot of powerful people, but I've also been in the room with a lot of people that are seeking. And when you ask business owners the question, what do you really want from your life's journey, and you get that blank stare sometimes, you see in their eyes that maybe they're really not certain. Because until you determine what you want, for me, I crafted a mission really, really early in life. I want to leave it better than I found it. And that affects everything I do. I mean, our workshops are incredibly energized for a reason. I want to impact people. Our material is very deep for a reason. I want the material to impact people. Our service is unparalleled because we want our service to impact people. But if you don't know what you want, how do you design any of that? And the other thing, Becky, and this is truth, I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money and be incredibly miserable because they chase down all that money stuff. And when they finally slowed down and looked behind them, everything they really cared about was gone, or they were detached from it, or the relationship equity had disappeared, or they had made a ton of money, but they weren't present in their kids' lives. They missed their events. And I ask people, because I tell them, look, here's your brain. Here's your brain on Paul. I want you to think, be careful. What do you really want? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be? Because that question, the answer to that question, will help you shape different goals than you may currently have. It's the most freeing thing on earth to finally figure out what you really want.
So I want to repeat that, Paul. You said that your answer to the question, what do you really want, can really shape the goals that you put together, and it might end up being radically different than what you would have expected.
Yeah, I had a friend come to the event that was a stockbroker, and he was caught up in the Wall Street loop, and he was absolutely 100% miserable. He never saw his family. He had all the money he could spend, but he didn't really have a relationship with his kids. And he left, literally went back, resigned. Not sure his company was happy with me about that, and they moved out to Colorado. And he had a passion for skiing. And so he went out there and said, I'm going to get in the skiing business. And he became a ski instructor, and then he opened a little ski shop. And he's happier than a lark because he's finally living a life that makes him happy, makes his family happy. It's filled up with great moments. And so his goals are different, obviously.
So Andy, do you happen to remember what your response was to that question, what do you really want, when you sat in Paul's seminar?
I remember, Paul had us fill out journals, so we had to start a journal, and I said I wanted to become better at goal setting, which was kind of ironic, not realizing that it was going to become a goal setting, launched me to a whole different level of goal setting. And like Paul was saying, part of what I've seen from employees that I've worked with over the years, and also those who've worked with Paul back in those retreats, was a lot of people really didn't know what they want, or they were leading a life of maybe what somebody else told them they wanted, and so I think just having the freedom to pursue your own life and not what somebody else's goals are, I think that's always one of the key things, and that's something that Paul taught us, and something that those of us who are good at goal setting, we try to tell everybody, it's what's important to you and not what's important to somebody else.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, after we did some preparation for this webinar, Andy, you sent me a document that included a whole lot of your goals written down, typed up, like a really long document. So Paul and Andy, can you tell me, why is it so important that goals are written down? Why does that matter?
Yeah, let me just tell you that I'm gonna let Andy take this one on because of the evidence thing, but here's the bottom line. What gets written down, committed to, signed off like it's a contract between you and yourself, the likelihood of you completing that goal, there's two ways to look at it. It's either I should or I will. If you get in the I should business, you're going to be that wandering generality. Well, I know I should get up early. I know I should exercise. I know I should eat right. I know I should spend time with my family. I should, till I should all over myself. And you end up in a pile of should, and it doesn't smell very good. But if you get in the I will business and you hold yourself accountable to those daily goals, one, they're going to motivate you. They're going to drive you. I mean, Andy's are present. They're in front of him. Look how quickly he sent you that amazing bucket list. I know you saw all the X's, all the things already accomplished. His to-do list, his action item list is crazy. Guy's a warrior. But I'll let him tell you why writing it down mattered to him, because I think that's one of the big things he shared with me that happened after Wildwood. He went back and put everything he wanted to do in writing.
Yeah, I think it's so critical. It's a process. Like I tell people who don't write them down, a lot of people kind of know what they want. They have it up here in their head, so they do. But you know, life happens. You're busy. You don't really, and so you end up just filling your time with things that aren't really important to you. So, you know, I actually had a bucket list before I went there that I had kind of written down, but I followed it kind of closely, but not really deep. And then I started really writing down my goals. And Paul always said, do you have your goals in writing? Do you have them somewhere you look at every day? I have my goals. I carry them with me. I have them in my closet written out. I have a vision board every year that I do before the year starts. And, you know, I just kept building on it from there. Then then those of us that can be considered, as some of my family or friends would say, obsessed with it, you have to be careful because for me, I'm always on a mission of if I put it down, it's going to happen. And sometimes, you know, some of the goals you might come up with don't make sense with where you are at a certain point of life, either with business or family or different things. So you also have to make sure that when I put everything down, does it make sense with the flow of the year, and does it make sense in harmony with business and work and I think and health, you know. So you know, I have all those over the years. I just keep refining and adding to them, and then basically I just fill my calendar for the year of here's what's going to happen, and it's just almost like, it seems hard, but it's almost like autopilot.
So can you give us some overarching categories in which you have goals, Andy? So I heard you reference a few different things.
Sure. I mean, I have health goals, so I have you know, goals that I want to do. You know, everything from going to the doctor, to the dentist, to the cardiologist, to cholesterol goals, to fitness and exercise goals. So, you know, that's one of my passions now is to do events, whether it's running or triathlons. So I have goals that I want to do. Sign up for some races every year, and then I also have you know, so I'm getting out of bed every day. If there's not a race, I have annual goals for how many miles I'm gonna run or bike or swim. You know, I love to ski. That's one of my passions. So I have how many times I'm going to go out skiing for the year. And then I have travel and vacation goals with my wife and with my family. So those are all important. And then there, you know, entertainment goals. And then there's, you know, community goals I have too for, you know, those are all, you know, how I want to make an impact on my community and what's going to be important that year. You know, then I do separate, obviously, for business, you know, because that's, you know, where we spend most of our time. But I kind of type up and I share my personal goals with as many people who want to learn from me.
So can you talk a little bit about the types of goals you set in your business, or what kind of goals you're measuring as it relates to business?
Gee, you know, we do so many now through the whole company. We're a diverse company. You know, Paul talked to us about being in RVs, but we're also in boats, swimming pools, skis. We have a health club. So we have some overarching goals that who Alpenhaus is, that everything funnels up to this is our mission and this is our goal, and so that it becomes company-wide and global. It might be everything from customer service to you know, a cash focus goal, you know, things like that. But then every division has their own goals, and then we try to break them down. Obviously, being in a retail and sales driven organization, there's so many that are so easy to measure, you know, from a sales department to individual salespeople, and our managers work with all our salespeople on what their goals are. And you know, everybody's a little bit different because they sell different products, or they have different years of experience, or work at different stores. So we try to really refine that and make them measurable and timelines.
So, well, let's talk about timelines, because I know that when I start to think about this, the massive number of goals that you're even referencing, you know, there's all the personal vacation ones, the business ones. I get a little bit overwhelmed thinking about how long that list might be. So why are timelines so important to this goal setting process?
Well, Becky, I think people get confused in that they think that every goal has to be mammoth. And I think that's one of the reasons people get intimidated by goal setting and they back away, right? If someone was to get their hands on Andy's list, I know a lot of people that go, are you kidding? There must be 20 Andys. But Andy, as Andy did this, he got better at it. That allows you to be able to then find harmony in your goals and get more done. But the reason a timeline is important is if you just think of our calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't say someday. And goals have to have a timeline. And the reason being, if you think about it, let's just say that, when I started, Becky, you'll laugh at this, my first financial goal was to have $1,000 in the bank free and clear of all expenses, because I was tired of deciding which utility might get turned off as a 19-year-old in my little one-bedroom, 378 square foot apartment. And so I had to give myself, knowing my financial situation at the time, the right amount of time for that goal to seem real to me. And I still remember reaching that $1,000 goal and calling the guy that had inspired me to write it down, thinking I'm going to get this big pat on the back. Congratulations, Paul. And I said, hey, Mr. Gash, I've got $1,000 free and clear. He said, add a zero and call me back. So I changed the 1,000 to 10,000, but the time frame was different. Right? So the time frame is what your landscape is. Like Andy, I think, wants to run 1,000 miles a year. I'm sure he has that broken down into days. I'm sure he has some days he runs 5 miles, some days he runs 10. He puts his marathons in there, the miles he's running in his tries. And all of that landscape allows you to then build a platform for success. So without a timeline, you really can't set yourself up for winning, because you can't define the granular detail that makes that big goal seem incremental and doable.
So that makes sense. Andy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, absolutely. Like I was saying, things got to fit in with what's going on in your life and business. A lot of us have businesses that are have peaks and valleys throughout the year, and you're really, you got so much going on that you have to be 100% all in. And then there's other times where you have a little bit not, and then any of us that have kids, as we know, the school year or things that are happening with kids, or if you got kids in sports or activities, so I think you just have to balance that out, and you got to know what's realistic, so that's something like I tell people, like a common goal, as everybody, January 1st, everybody wants to get in shape, and so people will ask me, and I'm going to go to the gym every day, and I'm saying that's a stupid goal, because you can't go from 0 to every day, and I always encourage them, start with something that's a habit.
Absolutely.
That you can then build on, that can fit in, and then, if you're able to do more, then do more. But just, whatever it is, start a little small. I mean, like Paul said, don't not have big goals, but know that there's a path to get there. It's not monumental.
Andy, a great just analogy for that. A friend of mine wrote a book called Take the Stairs, and Rory Baden, good friend of mine. But the whole premise of that, and why Rory was right, too many people are wanting to hit the express button on the elevator. When they can't get there, they stop. So when I'm going to the gym every day, they miss 2 days and they go, goal setting doesn't work. No, that's not what happened. So giving yourself that time, and Becky, one of the steps in the book about goal setting fits to Andy's point. You just have to be flexible in your approach. You have to stay on a straight track, but life requires flexibility of you when it comes to goal setting. You have to adjust.
Well, I think that was actually our next question. So let's talk a little bit more about the role of flexibility in goal setting.
Yeah, so just from my standpoint, I'll give you an example. And I tell people this all the time. People say, Paul, what were your goals when you started speaking? And I said that one person would buy a ticket and not leave before I finished. Right? I mean, I was a puppy. I was so young, and I looked like I was 12. And so I had these small goals. I just knew I wanted to teach. And so along that first year's journey, we had events that were great. We had events, I never forget showing up one time, the PowerPoint didn't work, the microphone didn't work, I couldn't find anybody on the hotel staff. And that's when you learn that you just got to be flexible. Things are going to happen, but that's not a setback unless you let it be. It's really an opportunity in disguise. And I actually think that those are some of the great moments in your life. Is those moments where you have to find the best in yourself, and that's like that slide, right? You either quit or you readjust and don't give up. Because there's moments that are tough. I know Andy's been through tough moments. Look, I'm a dad of 5 kids. Anybody that has children that's watching this, you know what I'm talking about. I love all of my children. I didn't necessarily like them every day. Your kids can be challenging, helping them achieve things. You just got to be willing to adjust, and you have to have that flexibility. Knock me down 6, I'm going to sit up and get up 7. And that's just what flexibility means to me.
Any thoughts, Andy?
No, like in our business, like I said, a couple of our businesses, we're ski, boats, and swimming pools. We have to be flexible because we're so weather dependent at times. And we get a year that doesn't snow, so you got to have goals, but then you got to be flexible, and you got to, so that's something that we encourage with our team is, you can only control what you can control. So then we'll have short-term goals because you can't control the weather, but there's things we can do, and then eventually patterns weather even out. We do get snow or we do get sunny days. This year happened to be very rainy all spring up here in the Northeast, and it kind of deterred some of the enthusiasm for swimming pools. But there's the long term comes quicker than you think, and the short term you got to make decisions, and you got to be flexible along the way and not beat yourself up.
That makes sense. And it sounds at least like you have the benefit, Andy, of having different parts of your business that are going to do well in different times of the year.
That's true.
So that was smart thinking.
He's built a hedge fund.
It sounds like he has. So what do the two of you think about having different goals at different seasons? So I know, Andy, when I looked at your list seemed to be, here are all the goals I have going on at once, and it might be 20. But Paul, what would your thoughts be about having, this is my Q1 goals, and in Q1 I'm going to focus on this area, and then in Q2 I'm going to focus on this. What do you think about that approach?
Well, I've taught Andy will remember this from Wildwood. I've taught a premise called the magic of 90 days my whole life. Everything I do with the businesses I work with, we work in 90-day, 13-week campaigns, because here's what I honestly believe. One, we can do anything for 90 days. Anything. We can get up earlier. We can make more calls. We can be more enthusiastic. We can do anything for 90 days. Here's the other fun part. Everything that's going to happen probably will in 90 days, right? Someone's going to show up sick. Life's not going to be perfect. So those 90-day increments allow you to have this really compressed focus period. And I look at it like an athletic, almost like an athletic record. Okay, can I have an 11-2 record in the next 13 weeks? Can I go 10-3? I just don't want to go like 4-9. Like my LSU Tigers might this year because of what we got going on. But I just want to have a winning campaign. And it's really been helpful to my clients is to be able to give them that 90-day look, show them what we can do for 90 days. So everything we launch is based around that. Everything we teach in goal setting, that's how we get people triggered. And what I mean by triggered is where it becomes this conditioned response and thought process. I can do this for 7 days. Okay, I can do this every day for 7 days. Wait a minute, I can do these 3 hours of that one day and this 2 hours. And then you're managing minutes and moments. And that's when your life becomes magical. So that's just how I look at it. I'm a 90-day guy. I have long-term goals, huge long-term goals. But I get there by running these 4 90-day campaigns every year and teaching my clients to do the same thing.
Well, and how does that relate to when we spoke before? I think you were at home, Paul, and you were referencing your goal-setting wall. Can you tell our attendees about that goal-setting wall and how that helps you stay focused?
Yeah, I think Andy has a vision board too, and that's what I call it. I am a real big believer in mindset, Becky, and I think that what we see, what we envision, what we believe in, what we view as a reality is better viewed in vivid color. And so what I do, for instance, when I first wrote the goal, I want to teach, originally it was on 2 continents, now it's 6. I went and put the continent that I wanted to go to, and I drew pictures and all the places that I wanted to visit. I put it out of magazines, beaches I wanted to stand on, venues I wanted to speak in. Like, I'll never forget right now, I want to speak in Twickenham Rugby Stadium. I don't know if you've ever been over there, but Twickenham's massive. It was crazy. I put that on my wall. 2 years later, I did a speech down in New Orleans, and the first guy in the receiving line after was a guy from England who invited me to come to the UK, and the first event I did was at Twickenham. So when I tell you this stuff works, Andy knows the story of Wildwood. I drew my campus out on a vision board 15 years before I bought it, and Becky, if you saw what I drew, what I wrote down, driveway lined by trees, antebellum home sitting on a knoll, light bruised ceiling with 4 columns, surrounded by a mountain as a backdrop, fields far and wide, creek meandering through. If you walked on that piece of property, it literally is what I saw in my mind's eye 15 years before I bought it. So why do I have visualization boards? Because one, it's just cool, it's fun, it's inspiring, and it works.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, we want to shift for a second and talk a little bit about you. I would love to hear from you about the impact this goal setting process has had over the years on your life and business. And look at that awesome race finish picture.
Boom!
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that was the New
awesome.
York City Marathon. New
Which one?
York City. It
Nice.
was a fun one. Tough not to have fun there.
Uh,
So the question is, what kind of effect has it had?
Yes, the impact that it's had on your life and business.
Well, I think, it's fun, because I'm choosing basically, designing my life to do what I want to do. So, I think I'm a big sports nut, and I think back in the day, when you're working hard and you're raising kids, I used to be a guy that wasn't out. Even though I was getting a lot done, Sundays were for crashing on the couch and watching football all day and watching every game. And I think Paul spoke to me at that retreat saying, that's what the sports center is for. You don't have to watch every minute of every game. And so I started really saying, I'm going to live life as a participant, not a spectator. That's been my mantra since that retreat. And so I think that's the effect, of just not that you're overcommitting, but basically you're looking at, if somebody wants to watch TV for relaxation, I always tell my friends or employees, great. That's if that's part of your decompress, de-stress, but don't watch like 40 hours a week. There's so much
exactly.
there's so much you can do. So I think that's so I think that's what it is. And with scheduling stuff with family and trips and dinners and things like that, and with friends, there's just so much you can do outside of work. At work, that's what we try to design everything to around goals and around things that are manageable and fun and work at the same time.
That's helpful.
And Andy, I think if we had longer than an hour on our webinar today, if you told people some of the places you've gone because of your goals, and some of the marathons and some of the tries, I mean, when I look at your list, I'm just so proud of you. Because, I mean, you did the one thing I told people, time out. Okay, so you're on your deathbed. Well, Andy, what'd you spend your life doing? Well, I watched the game. But how about I played the game?
Yeah.
How about people were cheering me on? How about I've got banners and medals and experiences? So that is, I'm really glad you brought it up. It goes back to that old point. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marked.
I have that posted in my closet.
Does sweat and blood, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotion, spends himself in a worthy cause, so at least if he fails while daring greatly, so his place will never rest with cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. Mr. Roosevelt had that right a long time ago. So yeah, and that's what it is, Becky. It's being in the game, and going and chasing it all down. Why not?
And I think one of the things that Paul preaches all the time is to write your goals out, but share them. And so that's something we encourage with our employees. But I'm reminded of this picture of me doing New York City. I had never done a marathon. This is the second time I did New York, but the first marathon I ever did, I wanted to do New York City. And I had a guy in my office calling on me, and we're just talking about different things. And I said, yeah, one of my goals is to do New York City Marathon. He looks at me, I was like, you're in. I'm like, what do you mean you're in? Because I'm on the board of the New York City Marathon. I'm like, no way.
That's what I mean.
And I was like, it freaked me out. I'm like, how is that happening? It's like, how is this guy in my office on the board and I didn't even know it, And it was, so then I tell my employees that it's amazing, my friends and people that I know in the business world, how many times things like that happen when you actually are brave enough to share your goals with the world.
Yeah, that universal return, that circle, if you put it out there with genuineness and intensity, the attracting back the people you need, the resources you need, the experiences you need. People think that's metaphysical, and it gets all caught up in this whole thing, law of attraction. It's just life.
Yeah.
If you put good stuff out, you're going to get good stuff back. That's just life.
No doubt.
Well, so that leads me to think, though, Paul, I know you were mentioning your vision of your retreat in Wildwood. So how do you know when you have a vision or a dream? How do you know if it's realistic or if it's just crazy?
Well, there's several things. First of all, what 7 years ago, did anybody ever heard of a tweet on a Twitter? Right? You would have thought you need to go to a doctor or something. I mean, what was Uber? I mean, we're in the most fast-paced period of rapid disruptive change we've ever been in. And look, here's what I tell people. If you think your idea is crazy, for gosh sakes, go write it down, put it on a wall, because if you think that, you're probably onto something. You know, so I celebrate. I think a little crazy goes a long way. I mean, we would still be in a covered wagon if somebody hadn't thought we could get, you know, if Ford, who thought you could turn a car into an assembly line? For goodness sake. Becky, a guy sold us pet rocks years ago. He took rocks and called him a pet, and people bought it. What's saying? Go to Disney World. Not a single sane person. Think about this. You walk up to the front gate, right? Wow, like this, and all of a sudden the experience hits you, and you got four kids with you. It's $190 a piece. You spend $1,000 before you're in the place, and the whole day you're there to celebrate a mouse that doesn't talk, right? And you're caught up in this. I mean, hey, wonder what people said to Disney when he said, "I want to tear down an orange grove, and I want to build a theme park featuring a mouse." I wonder who thought he was crazy. So I'm just telling you, I firmly believe a little crazy goes a long way. Jobs was crazy. I'm going to take the world's music and put it in something you can hold in your hand. He literally got the entire music industry to have to give him their music.
That is so true.
Yeah,
Well, so what advice would you have for someone who's on the line and they have what feels like an overwhelming number of goals? So how would you direct that energy? You know, this person has so many things they want to achieve. How would you direct that energy toward being focused on something that can actually get results?
all right, hang on. So we got a guy that does this with us today. I know what I would say because I'm the most kind of disciplined thing. I'm an everyday guy. I have my daily list. I believe in that 86,400 seconds. I don't let myself get overwhelmed because I stay in present moments. I stay inspired by the long term, but I stay present in the moment. You know, it's like this webinar to me today, just massively important to me. Really excited for it. Tomorrow, I've got a whole different set of things. I'll be genuinely equally excited about those. But Andy, how do you do that with this cascading group of all of these goals? And you talked about harmony earlier. So how do you get out of overwhelmed into action?
I think, you know, if somebody's looking at it, I think there's a couple things. One is how important it is in your life or where you're at that point. You know, so sometimes people have financial goals, and it is important because, you know, they got kids that are going to go to college or they were looking to buy a new house or something like that. So that's one thing. And also, what are you going to be excited about? Because, you know, you want to wake up every day excited about it. If you put down a goal and you're not really excited about it, as soon as it gets hard or there's adversity, you're not going to wake up enthusiastic for pursuing it. So I think starting with what you're most enthusiastic about are the easier ones to do, and then you can build other ones from there. So I think and at the end of the day, you know, when you say be flexible, if you start something you figure it's not for you, like if somebody wanted to try a new sport or something like that, and you know, for a hobby and they hate it, say they want to take up fishing or golf and they hated either one, then I say, well, at least you tried it. That was a good goal. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Move on and pick up something else. Just do something.
Yeah, to give up something you hate to do something you love is not quitting. You know, some people look at it that way. But Becky, one other thing I want to just mention about this whole thing about being overwhelmed and stuff is if you figure out what your all is, here's the beautiful thing. Your list gets tailored. You know, when you know what you want, it informs your choices, and it directs your conduct. And I'll tell you what it really does. It makes your no list bigger, not your yes list. And I've shared this with Andy. I believe success in life is more about what you say no to than it is about what you say yes to. Right? And just like him telling him, just don't do 40 hours of TV. I mean, just watch House of Cards one weekend, binge it, and then move on. But don't sit there every night, you know, with your rear end, you know, Velcro attached to your easy chair. You know, go live. So I just want everybody to watching this to get it, that listen, when you figure out what you want, you ask yourself better questions, it's just going to inform your choices. And you're going to be able to get, sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, Becky. And sometimes you got to do a little less to have more impact. And your life actually amplifies that way. Sometimes people think letting go of stuff means they're giving up. It doesn't. It means you're refining, you're narrowing, and then you're just amplifying your journey.
Well, I sure hope someone is tweeting out some of these great one-liners, Paul, because I can't take notes fast enough.
Yeah, blame that on my grandfather.
I was just gonna add one more thing on that. You know, one of the things I do too is I find mentors in whatever areas, and I always try to pick the brains of people that I feel are operating at a higher level than me. So I think it's always, you know, who you surround yourself with, and it's amazing, you know, how people that seem to be so much even busier than me, how easy they make it seem, and they give you great advice on how to do it. So there's so many ways just to slay it, and I think finding other people to hold you accountable or to mentor is a great way too.
Yeah, and Andy, and if we have any younger people on here, I'll tell you what I see people do all the time. That's one of the biggest things I did in my goal list, is I just had a mentor share with me, if there's people you want to meet, if there's experiences you want to have, write them down. Make them my goals. And so for young people out here, I'm telling you, people that have had immense success are more accessible than you think. And if you write and you ask and you call and you reach out, there are mentors available to us, and they will take the time. They actually look forward to it. And I see people shy away, oh, they won't return my call. I could never get in to see that person. That's not true. You know, so I have my fun relationships over here, and it was all music artists. I want to meet this person. Like there was this female singer named Beth Hart that I was just obsessed with her music. So I put it in my goal book. She's played on my campus. Not only that, I took a year of my life off, and we did a tour called the Music and Message Tour to raise money for better women and children about 10 years ago. And I had never met this lady in my life, but I did. Zach Brown, country artist, played at our campus, got married on our campus. Just the courage to write things down. If you want to meet someone, you want to mentor, Andy's right, relationship up. Just, and these people will teach you. They'll share with you, and they'll help you shortcut, because they'll be able to share mistakes they made and what they did. And it's not shortcutting your success, it's limiting your mistakes so you can get to your victory quicker. He's 100% right about that.
Well, we have some questions starting to come in from our attendees, so I want to remind everyone who's on the line that if you have some specific questions for Paul or for Andy, we would love to have you type those. And it seems like you have a lot of fans on the call, Paul, so I want to just take a minute to address a couple of questions. One of our attendees is wondering about if it's okay with you if she uses your book to create a virtual group to study the book together. And she's wondering if you have any suggestions about that.
Yeah, well, a couple of things I would do. I don't know if you have your hands on it yet. I hope you do. But if you don't, when you get it, you're going to love it, because the book is full of toolkits. And actually, I want to tell everybody in the back, one of the things I think we did that was really great, we took all the lessons that are sprinkled through the book, and we put them together in the back by chapter. So you've got all 125 in one usable toolkit that you can refer to daily. And what I would suggest to you is to do like my mother said when she cooks Sunday stew, Becky. You let your mom do the cooking, and you just concentrate on the eating. And that's because every ingredient matters. And this book was written sequentially. So if whoever wants to create that virtual group will just start in the very beginning, get everybody to say what they really want. You're talking about a great conversation, for everybody to see where people's perspective is, and then get feedback around that. And then I would go to the next question, and I would use that. But yeah, this book was designed for virtual learning. I'm so proud. Tomorrow morning, 250 teachers in inner city schools are picking up a copy of this book to workshop it in their classroom. And my hair's standing up. Anybody that knows me knows how I feel about kids. And I'm so proud of that. So please do. Yes, yes, yes. This book was not meant to be isolated on a bookshelf. And just engage your audience. I think questions are the key to building an interactive learning group. So just keep asking and keep learning from each other. Share your wisdom, share your knowledge.
Sure. Well, a couple more questions are coming in. I want to get to as many as we can. One of our attendees is wondering how to focus on one goal out of a lot. So, for example, he'd like to write several books and has an idea of topics, and how does he choose which one to begin with?
Okay. Let me tell you, this is really, really funny. You and I probably have a lot more in common than you think, because I was sitting there and I had 80 titles on my wall. 80 titles, right? Okay, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to write, You Can't Make a Buck Sitting on Your Butt. Passion Prevails When Everything Else Fails. Enthusiasm's an inside game. And I mean, I literally could have written 100,000 words on all of them. Here's what you got to decide. what do you want your book to do? Who's your audience? What's the impact you want it to have? Then you'll know. And then, once you get that down, write every line with a real person in mind. Andy doesn't know. He was sitting in the room with me when I wrote a lot of the chapters on goal setting. And I was writing as if I was talking to Andy. My book's very conversational. It became a better book when I wrote every line with someone in mind. So that's how you narrow it down. What do you want your book to do? Who do you want it to impact? Who's your audience? And that'll help.
So hopefully that will help. So Christine is wondering what tips you have as it relates to goal setting and avoiding the potential for procrastination. So how do you get yourself back on track when you've fallen off in pursuing your goals?
Andy?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier. You know, you got to be enthusiastic about it. Sometimes when I look, if I get off track just a little bit, sometimes my energy level's not there. Something, so I got to catch up on sleep or nutrition or whatever, or maybe there's a lot going on in work. So I think it's usually there's an underlying reason why. You just got to figure that out, and sometimes you just got to rejuvenate and just refocus, restart over. Sometimes that's all, just to get back on track, one day at a time.
Yeah, and let me add something to that Andy said earlier. There's so much information that we've covered, but he said something really powerful, but it's subtle. If you're not excited by it, if you can't be excited and stay excited, you're going to stop. So if you find yourself off track, I'm telling you, you've got your excitement dial turned down, and you need to get to the root cause of that. I tell people, listen, you can't solve things on the surface. You got to get to the root. That's why I keep saying ask better questions, ask better questions. But for me, it's pretty simple. And I kind of pulled the curtain back on it earlier. Just this one day, right? Just this one day. I was telling Andy, I got up at 4:30 this morning, went for a long walk. 6 o'clock, got my first cup of Starbucks, went down, sat down, pulled my book out in the Starbucks thing, wearing my T-shirt. I had a goal when I went in there. I want to introduce my book to 5 people at Starbucks this morning. And I did. Just fun. So, you know, the point I'm trying to say is I can do anything this one day, Becky. And, you know, then I can recommit tomorrow. So if this person's off track, it all starts with the single, you know, with the step. So if you're going to climb a mountain, you can't look at Everest and say, well, I wish I was at the top. No. You got to take the first step. You got to pack the bag. You got to prep. You got to train. So just do that one day. Just do this 86,400 second thing and get yourself back on track. Reform that habit.
Well, that is really powerful. You know, we only do have what we can get done today, and worrying about what we can get done tomorrow isn't going to help.
Yeah, and life doesn't come with an eraser either, Becky. So yesterday's, you know, you can't go back and go, ooh, wish I hadn't done that on Monday. It's already done. So living in that present moment and being inspired by the possibilities of the future and learning based on the experiences of the past, you know, that's a pretty good recipe for success.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Wow, well, here's a really big question.
Okay.
Obviously, Paul, you've built a really successful business online with your training, and we have a listener today who's wondering how you even begin to build an online training coaching business, and how could goal setting help with that?
Okay, well, it's really interesting. My son, Chris, who is dwarfing what I've done, and he's 30, my kids have really been my inspiration, but I'm going to tell you a quick story about Chris. And Andy, I think you've met Chris. I called him up and I said, hey, this is like 15 years ago. Hey, have you been looking at this stuff online? People are starting to put videos online. So what are you talking about? And I don't know if y'all remember this. It's like back in the days of Prodigy. You'd try to watch a video and it'd buffer and it'd spit up and you'd sit there and it wouldn't play. And so I finally told John Hoppy, who worked for me forever, and I wouldn't even have this company without John. I called him in one day. I said, John, we're going to start recording videos. He said, well, for what? I said, I don't know. But we're going to take our work and we're going to put it on tape. And this is before HD. And so he and I got in a room with sticky notes. I'm a big believer in ideation walls, Becky. And so I wrote down, I want to create online content that people can watch that doesn't require me to get on a plane. And then we put the categories. I want it to be uplifting. I believe the way you start a day determines a day. So my first show was called Morning Coffee with Paul. And it is the single most watched content we've ever created, millions and millions and millions of views. And Becky, we literally got in a room. I turned my baseball cap around backwards. I turned on a video camera with just this little word, energy. Hey, everybody, this is Paul Cummings of Morning Coffee with Paul. Let's talk about energy today. And I took an orange, and I bit it, and I spit the juice out everywhere, and I said, go get you some of that juice today. Energy knocks down walls. That was the first video. And today we're 12,800 videos filmed. We're 750 million minutes of content served. So I didn't have all that in mind. I just wanted to reach an audience. So what I would tell you, the way you do it is there's 4 things about video content. If it's not worth 2 minutes, don't record it. You got to have a learning objective. Don't waste people's time. If you can't be passionate, don't get on camera. 3, if you need notes and you're regurgitating memorized verbal vomit, get out of the business. And 4, teach from your heart, and people will show up. They'll listen. They'll love it. They'll like it, right? Enthusiasm inside business, outside reflection. And, keep it real like rain, so when you walk through it, people get wet.
Oh man, so there's a really neat testimonial that just came in my question box, and Rick is wondering if you've ever thought about bringing back morning coffee. And I don't know if this is a woman or a man by the spelling, but the person says, I raised my daughter alone through those videos, and she was very eager to watch those with me every day.
Okay, so now let's test Paul Cummings. I can't see this person. 1,600,000 students, 6 continents. Is it Ricrommel?
It is indeed.
He calls me Coach. Hey, Rick Rommel. Morning coffee hadn't gone away, brother. Your dealership just doesn't use the system anymore. So, Rick, you've got my number. You know me, and I know you raised your daughter on morning coffee, and I know she's a little level 10 warrior too. So, brother, you write me, and we'll figure it out together. But morning coffee is still available. I still record it every single day. And gosh, there's thousands of episodes now. So I got you back, brother. You know how to write me, paul@paulcummings.com.
All righty, thank you. So we have one more goal-related question, and people keep typing in. Like I said, you have a lot of fans on this call. This listener is saying that he finds it difficult to keep or allocate timing in goal setting. So do you have any additional recommendations around timing?
Is he talking about allocating the time to do it?
Not sure. So if you can provide some clarity here,
well, let me assume that's the first place. Mm-hmm. Okay, you ready? Get up earlier. Okay, a beautiful sunrise is most beautiful when you're awake to see it. Get your butt up. Take the first few minutes of your day. Write down your most important goals. Say them out loud. Look, this isn't rocket science. This dude named Andrew Carnegie stood in front of a mirror every day for 10 years and said out loud 3 times, I will be a billionaire. I will be a billionaire. I will be a billionaire. And became the first great industrial billionaire in the United States. You're 15 minutes away from changing your life. Whoever wrote that, just 15 minutes. Write your most important goals down. Think big rocks, gravel, sand, water. Top priorities are your big rocks. Okay, things you need to get done today are your gravel, right? Things you'd like to get done are your sand, and the water's things you hope to get done. Put them on a list, say them out loud, put them in your planner, and go do it. Okay, I mean, you can't cash excuses. Nobody writes that check.
I hear ya. Well, so here's a fun question for you. I was holding it to the end. Rodney, who seems to be from Allstate, is wondering how he can get an autographed copy of your book. So do you have any suggestions on what people can do if they want an autographed copy?
Okay, well, unfortunately, this is going to be a good answer too. Unfortunately, in the book distribution center, publishers will not let you autograph your books to then send them to bookstores or Amazon, because if it's autographed, they can't return it if nobody buys it. And so it's just this weird kind of thing, right? Last night, everybody came to the book event, and I signed all their books for them. So I don't know who Rodney is, but watch this, Rodney. This is a book. Hang on, buddy. And there's my signature right there. And if you will write paul@paulcummings.com, go to our store, order the book, I will take the time to ship you an autographed copy to your address so you can have a signed copy. And if anybody wants to buy a book for a friend and you want me to write them a special note, I promise you I will. So that's the only way I know to solve that. I would solve it differently if I was in the publishing business, but that's how I can solve it for you.
Well, and we have Catherine on the line who said she can't wait for that book signing in Chattanooga.
October 26th, 6 p.m., Barnes & Noble. We are going to blow that evening up. It's going to be a blast.
Well, and on your website also is information about all the other upcoming events that you have, and I know you're going to be traveling lots of places over the next little bit. So somebody wants to know when you're coming to Chicago. I don't know when that might be. Aubrey, if we could see the last slide, I want to make sure that everyone knows about the special offer for the listeners on today's call. So if you order 10 books today from Paul Cummings' website, then you're also going to get
Amazon. Do it through Amazon today.
Order 10 books today on Amazon for yourself and your friends. Then you're also going to get this bonus offer of an It All Matters affirmation toolkit, an It All Matters wristband, t-shirt, and a video program featuring over 350 individual video segments, which is a value of over close to $700. So that offer is open for 24 hours, and you can redeem that by sending your Amazon receipt to hello@paulcummings.com. So those of you who are listening today, I hope that you'll take advantage of that very special offer. And we do have a few more minutes.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, absolutely, you can.
That It All Matters video course, you know, it's hard to put a value and a price on that, but I want to tell you what I did. I went in the studio and I recorded 52 weeks worth of content. And I took everything that I literally have learned in the last 35 years that's poured through the pages of this book, and I recorded these videos that literally for an entire year, I take a new topic every week and we just dissect it. I'm telling you, they're powerful. They are intense. They will make you think. They're going to make you ask great questions. But that course, you know, my clients that are on my learning system, that is probably the most watched content besides coffee we have is the new It All Matters course. And we wanted to do this as a special offer because this book is more than a book. It's a platform. You know, this is a platform for people having a more meaningful journey, a better life, a better outcome. And that is why I wrote it. It's why we made this offer. It's not a monetary thing to us. We want you to get something that will really impact your life. That video course will bring this book to life in a magical way because it's like being in a room with the mindset of the author. So I think the book feels different, the videos feel different when you put them together. So take it back.
For sure, and I've got to read this testimony that just came in from Patty Bell with Allstate. She says that you're amazing, and you changed her life and saw her true destiny before she did. So that's some really powerful praise.
Well, Patty, you may not know this, but I had a bunch of Allstate people come over last night to the book signing, and it was amazing. The laughter we shared, the hugs we shared, Alex Schwab telling me that our program changed his life. And Patty, I remember you. You know, I know there were 100,000 of you guys, and there were 12,876 offices, but there were some people in that company that really stood out, and you're one of those people. And I'm not sure that you didn't see it yourself, but it was sure obvious to me. There was greatness all over you. So, you know, God bless and congrats on what you're doing.
Well, so as we wrap up this hour, I had kind of a crazy idea, Paul. I thought it would be really fun to hear one of your goals in the year ahead in an I will statement. And Andy, if you have one you want to share, and I want to invite our attendees, if as a result of this call today, you're convinced that you have a goal that you're really going to be focused on, and you can share one of your I will statements with us in the question panel so I can call out some of those I will statements. I thought that might be a fun way to wrap up this time so that we all stay focused on implementing what we've heard today. So Paul, do you have an I will statement you want to share?
Yeah, I do. I think it's really important. So in the next 5 years, I will speak to 50,000 kids in inner city schools across the United States, and I'd ask for a dime back. That is my big I will goal. I'm starting that next week. I'm going to speak next week to 1,500 kids in one community, actually where this book's story is written, because my good friend Chris Miller is making that happen for me. And so that's just something important to me. We're leaving too many kids behind. We're not giving them the support they need. We're not teaching them how to set goals early. We're not asking them how to write better questions. Our public school system's undersupported, underserved, and underfunded. Our teachers are spending 30% of their take-home pay to take care of our children. and going home and not being able to take care of their own. And I think that something needs to be done about it, and I want to take that on. So there you go.
That's an amazing I will statement. Andy, are there any I wills that you have that you'd like to share with us?
You know, I'm a long-term planner when it comes to my personal bucket list, so I already kind of know some of the things that I'm doing in 2018, 19, and 20, believe it or not, already. And so one of the things next year is, for me, I will do the rim to rim to rim in Grand Canyon hike with some business friends of mine. It's something a couple years ago we talked about it, and we were all busy, so we said we'll put it on 2018. So it's been on my calendar now for a couple of years.
Well, Andy, I know some of your friends. I hope they've gotten in better shape. You may have to drag them rim to rim to rim.
Well, I would love to hear some more of the I wills from those of you who are listening. And I know that in about a week, I'm going to have 5 copies of Paul's book in my office that I might be able to send back out. So if anyone on this call is willing to send feedback from today's event to webinars@weavinginfluence.com and send me your I will statements, we'll hook you up with the book. However, I don't want you to bypass this special offer either. So go ahead and send those emails to webinars@weavinginfluence.com and tell me about your I will statements. Thank you, Christine. She says she will read your book and apply it to expanding and defining her career goals as she transitions into the final year of her degree. And Catherine says in the next 4 years, she'll save up enough money to take her husband on his dream vacation to Wyoming for their 10-year anniversary. So those are really, really powerful. Joe says he's going to partner with you, Paul, and help reach as many people as possible to step into
that's Joe Calla.
It is indeed. So thanks to all of you who have joined us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to stop the recording. If there's anybody else on the line who would like to have their microphone opened up and you'd like to speak directly to Paul now that the recording is off, what you can do is you can use the hand raise functionality and go to webinar to let me know that you'd like to have your audio unmuted, and then you can have a chance to speak directly to Paul. So I'm going to...
Becky, one thing, don't forget, I have a Wheels Up flight in 72 minutes, so I may have like 4 minutes to say hi to anybody because I got to go to the next city and do a book signing.
Oh my heavens, I did not know that, Paul. Yeah. Okay, so I'm seeing that Arrow, you have your hand raised. Would you like to be unmuted? I'm going to go ahead. Arrow, for some reason it's not unmuting for me here. Arrow, welcome, you're on the line. Okay, I'm gonna move on. It doesn't sound like Arrow is talking to us. If you are on the line and you would like to speak to Paul for 1 quick minute before he rushes to the airport, you can go ahead and use that hand raise functionality, and I will open up your microphone. And there's so many of you still here. Cheryl, if you would like to be unmuted.
Okay.
Cheryl?
Yes. Paul, you are unbelievably dynamic and exciting person. I mean, I've listened to a lot of webinars. This is the best one I've listened to.
Oh, thanks, Cheryl.
Absolutely. And I have 2 quick questions. A, are you an active person in the National Speakers Association?
You know, I've been a member for years. I've been so busy. You know, we've done 5,319 events on 6 continents, and I've never done one at NSA.
Oh, it would be fabulous if you did. I've attended Alaska. I mean, you'd be fabulous, and you'd have an audience. But my quick question is this, and I hope that you actually can't see me. I have no makeup on. Anyway, so,
neither do I. So we have.
I know, but you know, it matters. My quick question, as I listened, is this: I used to be a person with your kind of energy. I wrote a career column for the last 30 years for major newspapers, did workshops, a former recruiter, now placement person, and I am struggling right now to get back that same kind of focus and energy that I used to have in abundance. Any suggestions about that?
Okay,
other than reading?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give you 3 little simple tips. I'm gonna tell you my favorite quote. It's on the wall of my retreat center. Andy will remember. It's never too late to become the person you might have been or would like to be. So that's first. Second, let that other stuff in your past go. It is what it is, and it's gone. And what I would tell you is I would sit down and ask myself, what inspires me most? Just one thing. What is it that inspires you most? And whatever that is, I would pour my energy into that one thing until I relight my own fire. I tell people all the time, listen, light a fire, get inspired, and then you can require yourself to live a life of real intention. So I would just do it. I would just say, I mean, where do I find my inspiration? And it doesn't have to be monumental or massive.
Mhm.
You know, I find some of my most joyful moments when I paint. People don't even know I paint, but I do. And so I do that because it inspires me. So, and listen, don't talk about what you used to be. I promise you, you still are. I'll tell you three things I want to leave you with. I tell everybody I meet this. And I don't have to meet you to know it. You're remarkable, you're extraordinary, and you're someone special. You're the only you in the whole world that's just like you. That makes you a masterpiece, and don't you ever forget that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll be in touch.
Thanks.
So, Paul, do you have time for me to open up the line again?
One more, because I literally, if I miss this slide, I miss a book signing, and people will shoot me.
All right. So I think it's our friend in Turkey, and I don't know how to say your name, sir, but I'm going to unmute your microphone, if I am able. Okay, here we go. Hello, are you with us? Is this Surya?
Yeah, my name is Surya. Yes, I'm from Turkey, but I am living in US as well. For some purpose, I have to be in Istanbul. I booked this webinar before, that's why I participate from here. But I'm mostly based in Fort Lauderdale, living in the US.
Yes, close to my daughter, down in West Palm area.
Palm Beach, you mean?
Palm Beach. Paul?
Palm Beach, yes.
Oh, perfect. I love Palm Beach. So thank you for giving me the chance to ask this question. I know your time is very tight, Paul. Thank you. But my question, I was working more than 28 years, different kind of French, American, and Swiss companies on sale base, and the last one was a country manager position. And I was under the very bad bullying, and I'm certified life coach from ICF since 2013. I'm practicing in my country, Turkey, and since last 2 years in US, life coaching. I'm working as a life coach and giving support to people and participate Safe School project in Miami. My question is a little bit similar to the last person question, last audience question. After this bullying, I lost a lot my motivation, and the bullying issue is still going on by an attorney and businessman who involved in it. And how I can get out from there, and how I can find the real support. But because even I communicate with specialists and lawyer, everybody, and I am always never get the answer from them.
Okay, well, let me see if I can help. First of all, I want to tell you that my grandfather told me when I started my first company, son, are you a lawyer? I said no. He said, remember that. Okay, so I want you to know that I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you any legal advice. But here's what I can tell you, that there are times when you'll have relationship breakdowns in your business career. There are times when people that you count on and people you believe in will disappoint you. There are times where you will find yourself what feels like to be the middle of a storm, and you feel trapped by it. And what I would ask myself is, what is this going to matter 10 years from now? And I sometimes see people unwilling to take the scissors, cut the cord, take the loss, and move on. I don't think life was meant to be spent suffering past mistakes or current pressure. I think you've got to find a way to get out of that, and you've got to ask yourself, what will make you happy? Where are you going to find that rekindling of your emotion into a positive? And I know that sounds simple, and I know it sounds maybe like I'm not avoiding your question. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I went through something similar to this with someone, chasing down my biggest life dream. And I found myself in the middle of a partnership that wasn't healthy, in the middle of something that wasn't great with someone whose ideals, values, and concepts weren't the same as mine, although I didn't know that when I started. And one of the hardest things I ever had to do was to say no more. I'm done with that. I want Paul Cummings' life to be what I want Paul Cummings' life to be. And I'm no longer willing to swim in this pool of mediocrity and negativity, and I got out of it. And it was the single greatest thing I did. It hurt, it wasn't fun, but I got out. So I would just tell you, my man, you've got the rest of your life to live. It's not worth suffering yesterday's mistakes and ruining your todays with those kind of present memories. So I figured out a way to cut that cord and get out and then move on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I know, and Paul's got to go. So thanks to all of you. Thanks for staying on and listening to the after party that we had.
Yes.
And Andy, Paul, thank you for this. It was amazing, and we'll be in touch soon.
Jackie, we got to end it with one thing. Andy, you better give him the right answer. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
What level are you at, brother?
Level 10.
10. All right, we're out.
Bye.